Geo-Economic Dimensions of Indian Ocean Region, its opportunities for region and beyond. You are requested to settle down so the proceedings of the session can be started. Volunteers, please guide the guests towards their respective seats. Thank you. Guests are requested to settle down and turn off your mobile phones or put them on silent. Dear guests, I am pleased to inform you that Vice Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, has kindly consented to be the chief guest in the closing session.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are greatly obliged to the Vice Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military Chief of the Naval Staff, for gracing the event as the chief guest. The chief guest will be joining us in a few minutes. Upon his arrival, you are requested to rise in his honor, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Chief Guest, Vice Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, and Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid. Sir, we are grateful for your presence here.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I, Farzeen,
and Faraz
feel privileged to welcome you at the closing session of International Maritime Symposium 2022. As you know that this two-day symposium has been convened to deliberate on the subject of the theme Geo-Economic Dimension of Indian Ocean Region, Opportunities for Region and Beyond. This auspicious event is being organized by National Institute of Maritime Affairs, Islamabad.
Dear guests, we are very pleased to welcome all the participants. Some of you have traveled a long distance to show their solidarity with the maritime community of Pakistan, and some scholars have joined us online to have given their valuable time for sharing experiences and suggestions to address maritime issues in the Indian Ocean region. The program of this session is as flashed for your information.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will start our proceedings with the recitation from the Holy Quran. I would like to invite Lieutenant Awais Shah for recitation and offering of the Rood-e Pak.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله الذي سخر لكم البحر لتجري الفلك فيه بأمره ولتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون وسخر لكم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض جميعا منه إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون صدق الله العظيم. Allah is He who has subjected to you the river, that the boats may run on it by His command, and that you may seek His bounty, and that you may be grateful, and has made to work for you whatsoever is in the heavens and whatsoever is in the earth by His command. Verily in it are signs for a people who reflect. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Wa ma alayna illa al-balagh.
Jazakallah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first speaker for the session is Dr. Hassan Daud Butt, Associate Professor, Bahia University, Islamabad. But before I invite him, I would like to introduce to him first.
Dr. Hassan Daud Butt brings with him years of enriched experience of working on projects and new initiatives, especially those involving Chinese state-owned and private enterprises. He has worked with international organizations including IFC, World Bank on setting up of EODB cell and facilitation center. Previously, as project director, coordinator of CPEC at MOPD and SI 2016 to 2019, He was responsible for overall coordination and progress review entire CPEC portfolio. In his last appointment was CEO KP Board of Investment and Special Economic Zone Authority. Earlier as a diplomat, 2009 to 2013 in the Embassy of Pakistan, Beijing, China and Hanoi, Vietnam, he carried out MNC facilitation of the entire spectrum of strategic projects. He was awarded the Commemorative Medal by the Chinese Ministry of Defense for improving relations between both countries. He is an associate professor at Bahia University, where he is engaged in sharing his knowledge to budding projects manager. Dr. Hassan Daud Butt is also a research fellow of Global Governance Institute, China, and an advisor to China Institute of Globalization, Beijing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hassan Daud Butt.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Vice Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi, sir. Honorable DG NEMA, Senator Mushahid Hussain, former Chief of Naval Staff, senior officers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. But before I start my formal speech, I would also like to thank two of my co-speakers, one from Russia and the other from Turkey. And as Confucius said 5,000 years ago, isn't it a joy to have friends come from afar? So today we will be talking about the maritime issues related to the connectivity, and I believe that this event is happening at an extraordinary time when multiple crises, including the Russian-Ukraine conflict, food shortages, debt distress in a large number of countries are causing uncertainties and economic challenges with chances of a possible major recession in 2023. Kristalina Georgieva of the IMF has actually predicted that the global GDP growth rate might slip down to 2% in 2023, and similar dismal picture has been portrayed by other financial institutions. But the more worrying part for me, ladies and gentlemen, is and for all the policy makers and scholars, is that the possibilities of resource shrinking for developing countries like Pakistan, which need 1.3 million additional jobs on average each year, as the number of working age people will grow from 4 million to 5 million by 2035. As a result of all this, the conventional wisdom continues to grapple with national priorities that are shaping against globalization and connectivity, with global firms are becoming locally territorialized with multi-dimensional domino effect. These global challenges are the biggest stress tests that the international development cooperation and regional integration initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative have ever faced. Including the US-China tension, where Asian nations, particularly countries like Pakistan, which are friends to both, have to navigate and craft policies carefully and with caution, because the words like either you are with us or against us are echoing again. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the fact that the Declaration on Right to Development was passed in 1986, the development with shared prosperity has not reached the desired attention, and greatest challenge of our time is that despite so many commitments and technology advancement, a sizable population is not even on the development path and is caught up in a poverty trap. Clearly, unified and firm efforts are required to deal with anti-development and integration forces to establish a favorable environment for mutual growth and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, governments are now exploring solutions to avoid long-term damage to the economy and facilitate the recovery that can address challenges to livelihood, poverty alleviation, provision of global public goods, and employment creation. The central theme and consensus of the recent G20 summit in Bali was recover, stronger, recover together. I therefore think that the world needs connectivity and not fragmentation. And thus, the theme of my today's talk is building bridges and connectivity for a common and prosperous future. And as a researcher of globalization and as a practitioner of national projects, I believe that strong, innovative, and connective economies can help address the need as focus on connectivity of policy and unimpeded trade resultantly increases trade to 3 to 5%. I also strongly believe that despite several challenges and bottlenecks, China-Pakistan economic corridor scenario is transforming the country and opening the doors for new opportunities, including both regional and rural-urban synergy. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has further brought into sharp focus the topic of supply chain shortening, including nearshoring and reshoring. In this changing global scenario, we need to shape a more inclusive model for globalization. The process will be challenging and incremental, and this daunting task needs us to chart a clear and innovative path to regional and global economic success, as in the word of Mr. Kofi Annan, and I quote, "Arguing against globalization is like arguing against the laws of gravity," unquote. So we need to revive some of the rules of the game which have managed globalization in the past few decades, especially in the field of trade and investment, in order to create a leveling field through policy approaches away from conventional ideas about governance, organization, leadership, and innovation, including the introduction of the concept of improved globalization through glocalization, and this is the subject that I am doing research as we speak. Through glocalization, localities develop direct economic and cultural relationship to the global system through information technology, making the world a more connective and interdependent place, steering a synergized global development agenda while leveraging local endowments through national and regional markets with a productive export-led model, while improving the efficiency of border crossing and seaports, and perhaps explore modern maritime transportation and transshipment as an enabler of connectivity with shared prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, in fact, the maritime industry has to further transform its technologies that enhance goods movement around the world in a way that is environmentally responsible, equitable, efficient, and serves the demand of the new trend in connectivity. The pandemic has also strengthened the case for digitization in the shipping industry, reinforcing the needs of standard and interoperability, and therefore many trade facilitation measures are being taken during the pandemic, which requires further investment in digitization and automation with an increased focus on cyber security risks. The COVID-19 pandemic have had a tremendous impact on the functioning of economies around the world. The effect on supply chain is still being felt as the virus, while no longer as deadly, is perhaps spreading again. The negative consequences can be seen in the congestion at ports and terminals, ships waiting at anchorage for a free berth, and high transportation prices and general uncertainty about its timely deliverable. And working on the investment and trade for last 10 years, last 2 years were like nightmare. Globally, small but densely interconnected ports have registered and resisted better to the crisis than the others, while small transshipment hubs appear to have been more negatively impacted, and therefore this demand for carefully examining port projects that focus exclusively on transshipment connectivity, and it may increase ports' vulnerability to global shock such as COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, connectivity of policy, people-to-people interaction, cultural exchanges, and seamless trade are the bedrock for Belt and Road Initiative, which is possible through forging strong synergy and broadening extensive consultation for harmonizing of policy with a view of seeking a common ground while setting aside differences. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is the true manifestation of regional connectivity with a vision of improving people's lives by facilitating inclusive development and enabling mutual prosperity, thereby creating new markets, scaling up supply chains, removing bottlenecks for holistic development. We are creating rural-urban synergy, and just imagine, and I'm saying this as a first-hand information to you, that by creating one motorway between DI Khan and Yarik in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, I was able to attract investment of over $3 billion in DI Khan remote area. And this is what connectivity does to you. This is what Chinese said 5,000 years ago, that if you want to become rich, build roads. Ladies and gentlemen, similarly, the connectivity through CAPEC, that is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Economic Corridor, and it's a small corridor, but it's helping us immensely. And its linkages with CPEC soon after completion of ML1 is promising great future. However, mutual trust, synergy among stakeholders, and commitment to connectivity and development through infrastructure are a prerequisites for all this to happen. I also believe that today our port and border post handlers lack the attitude, productivity, and capacity that can help us harness all the promises which are being set as we work along on CPEC. It took us almost 6 years, ladies and gentlemen, to get the approvals for Gwadar Port, which we had promised in 2013. And Senator Mushahid Hussain Sahib is here, and he's a witness, and he's been my biggest support when I was leading CPEC, especially he was heading the China-Pakistan committee, and used to grill us also. I think we also, and I also believe that crisis, as has been said, creates new opportunities, and now we have the opportunity after COVID-19 to try to establish a better pattern of connectivity which has to be inclusive. I also believe that in these challenging times, government has a vital role to play in identifying and financing high priority infrastructure projects, especially in the transportation and maritime sector, as about 80% of international freight traffic is carried by sea, and maritime supply chain stability is pivotal to global connectivity with shared prosperity. The COVID-19 pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, underscores that the link between maritime sector, ports, connectivity, and sustainable growth, and has augmented the policy case for highest resilience in global supply chain through improved shipping services, revealing the connectivity linkages, but also the potential for further improvement and cooperation through seminars like this. Ladies and gentlemen, to address headwinds, an integrated and synergized approach needs to be undertaken by introducing a development system suiting our local culture and environment. And therefore, I always say that we need to believe in our indigenous resources and indigenous experts sometimes also. Let us use our imagination to see how extreme poverty is addressed under the agenda of SDGs to encourage fast connectivity by incentivizing maritime industry that can generate employment and enhance export. And when I was part of the long-term plan for CPEC, I actually had to speak to almost all the ministers to include, because originally it was just Gwadar development in the long-term plan. We included blue economy also as part of the CPEC plan, and I urge all the scholars, all the practitioners of maritime sector to actually look at the long-term plan and find areas where you can work on. To achieve all this, ladies and gentlemen, it is expected that global leadership should be transformational, pragmatic, bold, efficient, and yet flexible to improve and benefit from what already exists before attempting to build new realities and new ideas. Let's finish the projects and initiatives that we have already started. Let's not think about more. And for us to achieve the paths of prosperity and mutual growth. At the end, I would recommend that we in Pakistan must mobilize all our resources for regional connectivity through an aggressive strategy and a serious commitment to address the concern and also benefit from the likes like Belt and Road Initiative, 21st Century Maritime Silk Route, the Global Development Initiative, and also the recent Security Initiative. And I was called to Peking University just for last 2 months I was there, and they were just talking about Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and I believe hardly there is any discussion being held in Pakistan on this, because they want to leverage Pakistan, they want to include Pakistan in both these initiatives, which are extremely, extremely vital for Chinese government. We need to complete the Gwadar and Keti Bandar projects and also develop hinterland connectivity with these ports through ML1 railway project, not just till Peshawar but till Landi Kotal, and the D.I. Khan Zob highway in the Western Corridor project as envisioned in the CPEC long-term plan. To maintain the balance between the two major requirements of connectivity, that is, the national security and trade facilitation, various material enhancement also are required. And I would just like to recommend a few, and I would also request DG NEMA to include them in your policy recommendations to the government. Strengthening and modernization of infrastructure capabilities at the port and border checkposts with access to technical aids and inspection equipment like X-rays to facilitate the seamless and quick inspection and examination of goods and means of transportation. Digital means of ensuring security. Ladies and gentlemen, the cowboy-style security is not working. We need to include technology. We need to include technology, and we need to embrace technology. Review and institutionalize legal reforms to promote investment and connectivity. Interagency coordination and collaboration and a well-coordinated policy framework acceptable and workable for all has to be adopted in order to yield optimal benefits. Simplification and harmonization of processes and procedures of trade documentation as the simplest of bottlenecks creates the biggest of nightmare in supply chain works. Institutional reforms such as the establishment of interagency and national facilitation committees to develop port and border management strategies have to be worked, and of equal significance is the international cooperation, which will remain vital, and we must leverage the initiative that I have just mentioned. This will require close cooperation and coordination between the regional countries and their ports and border authorities and agencies. I also believe that we must involve scholars, civil society, chambers of commerce by engaging business leaders from all regional countries in policy dialogue and having similar seminars as we are having, and it's so good to see, but I wish more people from chambers were here. We need to craft regulations properly tailored to ensure the competition and regional integration. To make space for added growth and sustainable economic momentum on win-win principle. I also believe, ladies and gentlemen, a strong government role is required to closely monitor risks and initiate stimulus packages and improve productivity. We have huge challenge of productivity, and when you work with Chinese and cross-national project, it's a nightmare. It is imperative that our vocational training centers and academic institutions, especially in the maritime sectors, are able to provide efficient and skilled manpower required to shoulder the task of transforming Pakistan and the maritime sector into a future industrial and transshipment hub. And I also believe that the private sector has to step in with this, because the government alone cannot do this. Lastly, All of us need to be maritime sector captains and the advocates of connectivity while negate the fallacy behind the false narrative that we keep hearing like the East India Company. And at the end, I would quote Deng Xiaoping, and this is very important for youngsters who are sitting in the rear rows. It does not matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches the mice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan, for your valuable insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyed as the keynote speaker. But before I invite Honorable Senator to the podium, let me introduce him first. No, sir? Thank you
very much. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And a special warm welcome to our honored guests, Vice Admiral Lodi, Director General NEMA Admiral Said, my friend Hassan Daud. You've just come back from Beijing, Mubarak. You've got a new diploma or something from Beijing University, Peking University. Professor Dr. Muhammad Saifuddin from Turkey. And Dr. Peter Topechkanov from Russia. And I believe you were at the Primakov Center doing research. I had the privilege and honor as being a journalist to interview Evgeny Primakov when he was director of the Institute of Oriental Studies in Moscow. And also when later on he was Prime Minister of Russia. He was Arabic speaking, he was a former journalist also, and he knew the Muslim world very well. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's good to see the former Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Aziz Mirza. He and I had a joint press conference at the height of Kargil when Atlantic was shot down, the naval plane. And when the Indians did that, so we prepared a fact sheet, and I remember preparing the fact sheet in his office. And we launched it, and it was a big campaign. And with Navy also, we have always had a very good relationship. And I remember with Admiral Zakaullah, he and I jointly organized the first international CPEC conference in Gwadar. And all the services chiefs came, and it was the first time, वो कहते हैं ना ग्वादर की मुंह दिखाई हो रही थी इंटरनेशनली, उसमें ईरान भी आया, अमेरिका भी आया, कोई घबराहट नहीं है, और चीन भी आया, मलेशिया भी आया. So we have had this relationship, and also I would compliment the Navy for excellent conference last year, the Aman conference. I was also one of the keynote speakers, and it was very successful. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk of our region, the dominant trends are of turbulence and transformation. A great change is taking place. And recently I was very struck by statements made by world leaders about the current global scenario. President Biden, when he launched the National Security Strategy on 12th of October, he said that this is going to be the decisive decade. President Putin of Russia, when he spoke to the Valdai Club in Moscow on 27th October, he said this is going to be the most dangerous decade after World War II. This is Putin's words. President Xi Jinping, when he gave his report to the 20th Congress of the Communist Party of China in Beijing on 16th October, he said, we are witnessing once-in-a-century changes. And recently I was reading in the Foreign Affairs, the American publication, an article by the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz. And he said the world is witnessing tectonic changes. So all the leaders are talking about what is this change all about? 90 years ago, the great poet of the East, Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal had predicted, Dekh, Mashriq se zara ubarte hue suraj ko dekh. See the sun rising from the east. We are seeing the resurgence of Asia. And we are seeing a historic change, a shift in the global balance of economic and political power away from the west to the east. And this change is extremely important, and the focus is, the center of gravity of the change is our region. Asia, Southwest Asia, Southeast Asia. In fact, I was telling Admiral Lodi that in future, the battles are not going to be in the mountains of Siachen or the plains of Punjab. It's all about sea power. It's about Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean. It's about sea power. And it's about time that we end our sea blindness. Not the Navy doesn't have the sea blindness, but non-Navy people, they have a sea blindness. They say, oh, no, it's about India and so forth, and Punjab and Rajasthan, and the troops will come like this. No. It's a different with the nuclear bombs, there's not going to be a conventional war anymore, a land war at least. But the focus of competition, the focus of conflict, the focus of confrontation is going to be the sea lanes. And what are the trends in that? And those are very important. And let's look at some of the global trends. First of all, we see the beginnings, the early signs of a new Cold War. US versus China. Because China is the rising power, China is the emerging power. And China is the first non-Western power to challenge Western hegemony in the area of science and technology and economy. And let's look at some of the statistics which will show the elements of this competition. Out of 193 members of the United Nations, 130 have more trade with China than they have with the United States. From the Solomon Islands to Saudi Arabia, more trade with China. After 9/11, the Americans spent $6.5 trillion in the so-called war on terror. And these are figures of the Brown University in Rhode Island, the Institute for the Study of Conflict. They gave the figures last year. $6.5 trillion in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya, in Somalia, and so forth. At the same time, China, after 9/11, invested $4 trillion in 3,000 different projects in Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, and all over. So, US policy driven by military, security-centric, Chinese policy driven by economy. And recently, Admiral Said would like that you should circulate this study I'm going to quote. This is a study done by Harvard University. It came out last December 2021, by Professor Graham Allison. It's called The Great Tech Rivalry, China versus US. 52 pages, it's on the Google, internet, you can get it. This is an American Harvard study. And they say that China has overtaken the United States of America in high-tech manufacturing. And they quoted, China produced, for example, last year 1.5 billion cell phones, 250 million computers, 25 million automobiles. And already in the area of STEM, S-T-E-M, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which is the core. China is producing 77,000 graduates, America is producing 40,000, out of which almost half are Indians or Chinese or Koreans, you know how they are. So that is why 5G, robotics, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, this is the area for the future. So that is the one area, US, China, Cold War, focusing in our region, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean. The second important trend relevant for us is the emerging Indo-American nexus, military nexus, that has implications for us. What is this nexus? Again, in 2016, they had this agreement, LEMOA, Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Association, where the two countries, the two navies and air forces could use each other's naval bases also for refueling, for staying on there, for training and so forth. That is the first such agreement. 2018 they had COMCASA, which is about communication and intelligence and so forth. 2020, 1 week before the American elections, the US Foreign Secretary, the Secretary of State, Pompeo, and the US Defense Secretary, Asper, were in Delhi to sign the BECA, Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement, BECA, a strategic partnership which is developing between India. And already in the Indo-Chinese border clashes, intelligence was provided by the Americans to India. But be very clear, India is not in a position to fight the Chinese. In fact, when they faced the threat from the Chinese, they requested us, the GHQ, please have a ceasefire on the line of control. The ceasefire was an outcome of the pressure from the Chinese because they didn't want a two-front situation. So that is very important, that the change in the nature of the Indian-American relationship, which has a very strong military and especially naval content. And that, I think, needs to be taken note of here. And then there's another trend, which is the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war has unexpected consequences. There used to be the divide, especially between Islamic countries and the West, Muslim world versus after 9/11 or before 9/11 even. But now that has been replaced by a north-south divide. The developing countries of the south and the developed countries of the north. For example, on the issue of Ukraine, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, China, UAE, Saudi Arabia have taken the same position. We have been neutral on that. We have not joined the Western bandwagon. So this is extremely important. And one expression of this change is this shift, and this is very important for us, is that the visit of President Xi Jinping to Saudi Arabia. If America has taken the battle to the Chinese backyard close to Taiwan, the Chinese have taken the diplomatic and economic battle to the American backyard, formerly in the Middle East, in the Gulf regions, where they were not there. So this is an extremely important development, and also the agreement they have signed, for the first time the trading will start in RMB, in yuan, not in dollars. This is very significant again. And I think that this shows that the reliance of traditional allies of the US on the United States from the Muslim world is now less so. And we are seeing also what I call the rise of Muslim middle powers. Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, who are now developing autonomous foreign policies in their own areas after the American exit from Afghanistan. Because the American exit is not just from Afghanistan. There's a retrenchment of American power from the broader Middle East. Because the old arrangement between the US and the Middle East was, Arab countries was, oil for security. Now they don't need the dependence on the oil of Saudi Arabia. They've got shale gas. And for security also, the countries feel they are on their own. So in this situation, what is Pakistan to do? What are Pakistan's strategic options? I think number one, end the sea blindness and focus on sea power and give paramount importance to the Pakistan Navy as one of the strategic parameters of our national security. And in that, especially not just maritime security, your maritime diplomacy. Last year in Amman, there were 42 countries, from Russia to America, from other countries. People who didn't talk to each other, they were talking with the Pakistan platform. And I was very heartened. Admiral Lodi just told me that they are having next, in February, PIMAC, Pakistan International Maritime Exhibition, for the first time, along with the so this is now a very important element in that. So you can rest assured that as chairman of the Senate Defense Committee and the Parliament, we will try to end the sea blindness and see the world through a blue eyes rather than other thing. So that is number one. Number two, regional connectivity. Daud Butt Saab has already explained about CPEC. CPEC is what is the future. It's about regional connectivity. And what are we talking of regional connectivity? We are seeing the emergence of what I call Greater South Asia. South Asia not as a geographical notion of Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan and the Maldives, but Greater South Asia through geoeconomics. Economy, energy, ports, pipelines, roads, railways. Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, Central Asian republics of Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and also the Gulf region, which are close by, Saudi Arabia and Qatar and UAE and so forth. So we are the hub of that regional connectivity. And that role is already underway through CPEC. And recently the president of Tajikistan was here last week, and he talked also. We have now resumed air service between Islamabad and Dushanbe. They are even talking of some highway through Wakhan, because 20 kilometers is the place. And then there's the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, TAPI also. So it's connectivity, especially economy and energy. And that is a very important element. That is the second component we should focus on, and CPEC has already provided us the platform for that. And there's also talk of a railway between Pakistan, Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. And 2-3 delegations have already gone there. The third important element is the blue economy. We talk a lot about the blue economy. It is a credit to the Ministry of Science and Technology, and especially the Pakistan Navy, that in 2015 we expanded our continental shelf through 350 nautical miles, 50,000 square kilometers. And people talked of that. But it's very sad, it's very dismaying that we still don't have an economic strategy for this. And that is a missing dimension. So Admiral Lodi, you have to fill in the blanks now, because a lot of the bureaucrats are very busy, and they do, politicians also in Islamabad are very busy. But these are strategic issues. These are not tactical issues. And on that we have to play a role, and I hope that PIMEC in February in Karachi would also be the launching pad for some sort of a serious thinking. A blueprint needs to be issued, and the Navy should do it. Because हमारे आदत है पकी पकाई रोटी का तैयार करके दे दें, फिर वो टिक मार्क करते, तो आप तैयार करें, and we'll support it. And this is extremely important, because when we talk of Pakistan's role in the region and otherwise, this blue economy would be a very important counter to other pressures. And we should develop, our Navy has already developed good relations. We are already present in Djibouti. And I congratulate the Navy for their security role in the Qatar World Cup, because there were 2 ships there also, 3,000 soldiers also. Somebody asked me, I was in Washington 2 weeks ago, I said, Pakistan they were talking of terrorism, Afghanistan. I said, we have gone beyond that, and beyond Afghanistan at least. Terrorism is still an issue, but Pakistan is multifaceted and a diverse country. We have different dimensions. And I said, I'll give you an example. The players who are playing in the Qatar stadiums, they are playing with Pakistani footballs made in Sialkot. And outside the stadium is the Pakistan Army, which is providing security. And on the shores of the Arabian Sea is the Pakistan Navy. So, that is our role. So, inshallah, we'll continue to play the role, because Pakistan has the will and the vision to do that. At times, the will may be lacking at level है, लेकिन कौम में करंट है, क़यादत ज़रा कमज़ोर है, लेकिन वैसे जान है कौम में, and we'll take it forward inshallah. So I wish to thank the Pakistan Navy, and especially this thinking. I remember the first think tank was established by Admiral HMS Chaudhry Saab, and he used to invite me in the old days when I was editor of the Muslim. But now you have institutionalized, because we have a lot of think tanks, but they are mostly tanks with green color, but now we have think tanks with blue color. And I think you need to have a stronger, robust voice in Islamabad, inshallah. And we are your voice in the parliament. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure to be here, and I thank Nima for this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your very well insight with enlightening talk. Owing to his busy schedule, Senator Musharraf Hussain Sayyed has to leave a bit earlier. We now request the Vice Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi, to present him memento. DG Nima is also requested to accompany him. Thank you very much, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite our foreign speaker, Dr. Peter Topichkanov, for his concluding thoughts. The honorable speaker has traveled all the way from Russia and graced the occasion with his physical presence.
Thank you so much. It's a huge honor for me to provide remarks based on the discussions yesterday and tomorrow. The discussions yesterday and in the last session provided a sound basis for closing remarks, and I'm very honored to share them with a highly respected audience. Yesterday, Professor Ahsan Iqbal, speaking about Pakistan, said a phrase to which the symposium participants returned several times. He noted that the country needs stability and continuity. Professor Jaspal talked about Pakistan needs to focus on itself. Meanwhile, many speakers noted that for the country's development, it is necessary to solve problems both in the country and at the regional and international levels. It was about developing transport infrastructure, environmentally friendly and responsible use of ocean resources, ensuring the stability of energy flows, and responding to the challenges of piracy, terrorism, and international crime. Yesterday's and today's discussion showed that three dimensions, national, regional, and international, are closely connected. Insightful reports have shown that drawing a line between the political and economic dimension is impossible. The morning discussion about geoeconomics and geopolitics convinced me that geopolitics and geoeconomics are closely intertwined. Presentations today about Gwadar and CPEC confirm this once again. Much has been said about confrontations and conflicts, but yesterday and today, projects were mentioned involving all countries interested in solving regional and international problems, be it environmental challenges and natural disasters, accidents at sea, fishing, and so on. Russia, the country from which I came, is now in the state of the armed confrontation with the neighboring state of Ukraine. Relations between Russia and the West have deteriorated significantly, but at the same time, we see that Russia and the West retain channels for solving problems they have concerns about. In particular, the mode of warning and response to accidents involving the armed forces of Russia and NATO countries is working almost without fail. The case of air system missile that fell in Poland, the NATO country, demonstrated that all the countries involved were very interested in avoiding further escalation. This example shows that the channels may remain to be used for the mutual benefit even in the face of confrontation. But the example of Russia also indicates that even those countries close to Russia, particularly China and India, openly called on her to end the confrontation and start negotiations with Ukraine. Globalization has made it so that the armed conflict in Europe, which Russia refuses even to call a war, causes people and economies far from Europe to suffer. In the Indian Ocean region, and the Indian Ocean region is no exception. This brings me to my main takeaway from our discussions yesterday and today. Is the armed confrontation in Europe a problem for the countries of the Indian Ocean? If the answer lies on the surface, no, then the discussion yesterday and today have shown that this is undoubtedly a challenge for the regional countries and maritime geoeconomics. This confrontation has had a negative impact on supply chain and prices and other aspects of the economic life of the countries. This fact shows that there are many also opportunities in this connectivity between the events in Europe and in the region. One of the opportunities is the pressure that the regional countries put on Russia to end this confrontation and to find a solution to the problems with Ukraine. Other opportunity is that there are many channels of communications remained and helping resolving economic and political issues caused by this turbulent time and the in general problems already discussed. One of them is this Shanghai Cooperation Organization, remained in force and actively involving the countries in the Eurasian space. But, and this is final point I would like to highlight, probably the first step, and it was mentioned also yesterday about Pakistan, but it's very relevant for other countries as well, and for my country too, that first we need to have a joint exercise of mapping problems and trying to find solutions that we can achieve together. For example, yesterday I mentioned disruptive technologies, how they impact security and strategic stability and security as well in the Indian Ocean, such as drones. And the case that just in the end, before leaving the audience, Senator Mushahid Hussain mentioned about the using drones in Europe already again demonstrated how disruptive and challenge is related to this new and old technology, altogether, new and old. So this is one of the many examples where we can have international and regional discussions with regional powers and external powers. Thank you so much for your attention. It was my pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite our next forum speaker, Professor Mehmet Seyfettin Erol, for his concluding thoughts. The honorable speaker has traveled all the way from Turkey and graced his occasion with his physical presence. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mehmet Seyfettin Erol.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you for giving me the floor once again. First of all, it was honorable to meet here with you, my estimable friends and brothers. I would like to express my pleasure in this once again. The very valuable views put forward in this symposium, which was held with the participation of very estimable experts from many parts of the world, brought the objectivity, solution-oriented, and, of course, efficiency of this symposium to the highest levels. Therefore, we have witnessed together a very high-level symposium which was organized by NEMA, both in terms of its timing and its participants and organizers. On the occasion of this symposium, more than anything else, I had the opportunity to observe very clearly the difference between looking at issues from afar and looking at them up close and personal. With these observations, I would like to state here that I will continue my work with a healthier perspective from now on. For this, I would like to express my gratitude to the NEMA team, especially the esteemed Director General, my dear friend, Vice Admiral Ahmed Said, and the esteemed participants. I believe that this exchange of ideas and in a friendly atmosphere has contributed to a much more search and process for regional and global connectivity, and based on the socio-economic, socio-political, and geopolitical station in the region rather than in Pakistan. Therefore, I can definitely say that this program is at the top 5 list of the most productive symposiums that I have attended in my career. It is the beginning of the first at the same time, as our senator said. In particular, I would like to congratulate Vice Admiral Ahmed Said and the NEMA team for organizing such a successful, beautiful and efficient organization in the aftermath of the floods, which also deeply saddened the Turkish nation. I would like to take this opportunity to make it clear that as long as there is a team like you who know how to stand up to any challenge, there will be no problem that Pakistan cannot overcome. My wish is that the relationship and constructive cooperation between our institutions will continue to grow stronger in the future. Every time I come to Pakistan, I feel a different happiness. But I would like you to experience this happiness by visiting your other home, and I look forward to seeing you in Ankara. As a final word, I would like to express this with great pleasure. We, as the Ankara Center for Crisis and Political Studies, the Ankasam family, are ready 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if there is anything to be done for Pakistan. We are just a phone call away from you. Because, as I said yesterday, Turks never let their friends down. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have a message from Mr. Muhammad Shehbaz Sharif, Prime Minister, Islamic Republic of Pakistan, on the occasion of IMS 2022. We are going to read out his message now.
It is indeed a matter of pleasure for me to learn that National Institute of Maritime Affairs is organizing an International Maritime Symposium on Geo-Economic Dimensions of Indian Ocean Region, Opportunities for Region and Beyond. I express my appreciation to the Chief of the Naval Staff and Director General NEMA for such an important initiative. I welcome and wish all the foreign speakers and delegates a very pleasant stay in Pakistan and hope that it will be a rewarding and personally satisfying experience. The Indian Ocean region is a hub of major sea routes which provides connectivity for global energy supply and offers avenues for regional economic development. The complex geo-economic interdependence and geostrategic environmental of IOR reflects interest of major powers like USA and its allies, as well as China. Considering the traditional and non-traditional security challenges, the geo-economics of Indian Ocean region necessitates smooth flow of trade, which is important not only for the Indian Ocean region, but also for the global economy. One of the important aspects for regional development is the maritime cooperation in the Indian Ocean region, which generally gets low priority.
Pakistan is heavily dependent on its sea lines of communications because over 90% of Pakistan's trade and almost 100% energy imports are conducted through sea. It is critically dependent. The size of Pakistan's economy would further grow in future. Therefore, any disruption in maritime trade has serious repercussions for the national security. It entails robust security and stability at the sea. The government is well aware of this imperative and is providing all-out support to maritime security apparatus, especially to Pakistan Navy. I appreciate the role of Pakistan Navy and NEMA for the policy advocacy to raise awareness in maritime domain. I also urge stakeholders, including academia, media, civil society organizations, and private sector to join hands in such endeavors to effectively translate such debates into peace, prosperity, and sustainable development for which Government of Pakistan is committed to provide all-out support.
I wish and pray for the success of the symposium. Muhammad Shahbaz Sharif, Prime Minister, Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a brief look at the two-day events of IMS 2022. Now I request Vice Admiral Retired Ahmed Said Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military Director General NEMA for resume of symposium.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Honorable Chief Guest, Vice Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi sir, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military, Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, former Chief of the Naval Staff sir, General Flag and Air Officers, distinguished speakers, our valued guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. We have had a very exhaustive 5 sessions, and correspondingly my staff has given me about 5 pages to read out. I'm sure that I'll not be doing that, so I'll cut short. The resume have already been you have witnessed also. So thanking to all my valued speakers, guests, those who have come from abroad as well. I think one thing has been very common, that on part of regional connectivity, internationally we have to connect up to solve our problems at strategic level, and that means the geopolitics plays an important role in stabilizing the region. So stability of the region is another important fact, for which of course the economic roots and connectivity has to be safeguarded as well. So security of these economic routes, whether it is at sea, whether it is the efficiency of the port, or whether it is the hinterland connectivity, all 3 segments have to work in consonance, so that the greater objective of bringing about the economic change, which the Senator said there is a global change in which South Asia is coming out to be hub of activity, and within that the Pakistan in itself is figuring out the key nation. So that is what, but before I proffer the recommendations, 2 things. Number 1, in person I would like to thank again the Vice Admiral Faisal Lodi. One thing I wanted to mention, that the NEMA, where it stands. Yesterday we did hear from former Chief of the Naval Staff, Afzal Tahir, that it was his brainchild in person that he brought about this very institution to create awareness about the maritime sector. So, but thereafter, the worthy chief guest has been associated with it very patiently. I would say that he has been instrumental in bringing about the changes to modernize this institution. So, be with me to applaud for his efforts. Our 2 guests, those who took time and came to Pakistan, although we had some guests from abroad online as well, but special thanks to Mehmet, Saifuddin, yourself, and your comments about Pakistan-Turkey relationships. I assure you that each Pakistani shares the similar sentiments about Turkey as well. We have a long shared history, so that keeps us moving in a positive direction, and I'm sure that we will together make a better relationship and connectivity to be a role model for rest of the world, inshallah. Dr. Peter from Russia, sir, so very kind for coming and joining us. Your enlightenment, your thoughts definitely has given us a lot of ways to think about, especially for Pakistan to play a pivotal role in connecting the region. Coming to some of the recommendations, although we will have a consolidated recommendations plus proceedings published in a later part, and we look forward from yourself to please do participate and proffer us some recommendations if you think which has not been covered during the sessions owing to the paucity of time. So first is to ensure economic growth of Pakistan, especially in maritime sector. Political stability and continuity of policies is indispensable. That is one of the gaps which was highlighted time and again, I believe. So this is one of the area which we need to work it out. There must be a proactive approach by the academicians to develop practical and applicable inferences in order to mitigate the knowing and doing gap. So this was in the context that perhaps dispensing the knowledge is there, but policies to execute is missing. So that part is to be looked after well. Then Pakistan needs to modernize her maritime regulatory organs in order to meet the growing threat in all security domains. It will in turn provide greater opportunities for the maritime community of Pakistan and as well as to the region and beyond. This is something which was again highlighted by Senator Mushahid as well. Even though we have extended our EEZ, but the mechanism to regulate and exploit the potential of this area needs to be instituted. Then prioritizing the sole pursuance of traditional security will further exhaust the already fragile economy of Pakistan. So therefore, our concern should be to divert ourselves to non-traditional aspects of national security so that our economy lifts off. Then while we were talking about the potential of our ports handling capacities, again there was mentioned that efforts be made to increase the volume of seaborne trade for the overall improvement of economy by Pakistan. The Gwadar port needs to be operationalized at the earliest so that we start reaping the dividend of transshipment as well. Pakistan geopolitics should be aimed at carving out geo-economic opportunities as a matter of priority. At the regional and international stakeholders, especially the major powers, must cooperate to promote regional stability and economic growth. It should be competitive at worst and cooperative at best. As we were talking about the Indian Ocean region, it was proposed that the state should mainstream cooperation in non-traditional sectors such as cooperation to combat piracy, human trafficking, drug smuggling, maritime pollution, and effects of climate change. Then was that Pakistan should continue to support regional solutions for maritime security in Indian Ocean in general and North Arabian Sea in particular. As Hassan Daud said that crises create opportunities. So his recommendation was that now the time is ripe for the opportunities. So our policymakers should inculcate these importance of these opportunities, and we should create policies accordingly. So towards the end, I would like to thank in particular to the Chief of the Naval Staff, plus Pakistan Navy and Bahria University for wholeheartedly supporting us. The NEMA team as well, I would like to thank to them. They worked day and night to make this a success, I'm sure. And one important component of all such gathering is the media. I would like to thank the media as well for making their presence felt all day in all sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now it's time to listen to our chief guest. May I request the Honorable Chief Guest, Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military, Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, to kindly address to the audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Faisal Rasool Lodi, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military, Vice Chief of the Naval Staff.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Admiral Aziz Mirza, former Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ahmed Said, Director General NEMA, very respected veterans, general officers, flag officers, air officers, our very honorable guests from Turkey and Russia, Dr. Peter and Dr. Mehmet. We are really thankful to you for traveling all the way and adding value to this activity. I feel privileged to represent Chief of the Naval Staff in the closing ceremony.